Now it's time for a look at what's making headlines around the world, and Deeptika Laurent is here with me. Deepti, the fallout continues after Donald Trump decided to fire those missiles into Syria. Tell us more.
Well, that's right. Well, now all eyes are on that meeting between Trump's Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov that begins on Tuesday. Tillerson is expected to confront Moscow over last week's deadly sarin gas attack in Syria. For the British paper The Times, Tillerson is the right man for the job. He knows Putin. He has a long commercial history with Russia. He'll certainly try and play hardball with Moscow, The Times says, and Russia would be well advised to listen to Tillerson because it's clear that their relationship with Assad's, quote, poisonous regime is sucking them deeper and deeper into the Syrian war.
And Russia's also been engaging in a war of words with British Foreign Minister Boris Johnson.
That's right. Well, Johnson cancelled a visit to Moscow in order to work on a proposal from the G7 that will ask Russia to remove its troops from Syria and drop its support for al-Assad. Well, the Russian embassy in London has sort of been trolling Johnson. They've been posting a couple of tweets like this one where they kind of held a mock survey saying, well, what will be the probable outcome of the G7 ultimatum, the choices being a war of clowns, a war of muses, or a conventional war, or all of the above. Now, so they've sort of been trolling him in several tweets. Johnson's visit would have been the first in 5 years, and he's been getting a lot of criticism back home from other British MPs, in particular Tim Farron, the Liberal Democrat leader, who said Boris has revealed himself to be the, quote, poodle of Washington. He's changing his agenda to suit their needs.
Now, tell us more about Russia's other ally, Iran, who on Sunday criticized Trump's missile strike.
Well, that's right. In addition to Russia, Iran has also been stepping up the criticism after Trump decided to launch that missile strike. Russia and Iran have threatened military action against the U.S. in retaliation. The Tehran Times newspaper reports that the Supreme Leader called the U.S. missile strike a strategic mistake and said that previous U.S. administrations were responsible for the rise of the Islamic State group, and the current administration are enabling the jihadists. But for the Washington Post, it's sort of a different story, Julia. The U.S. has a crucial role to play in Syria. That's what the Washington Post says. In fact, Trump's move to launch missiles could be the, I quote, opening salvo in the final epic battle to determine the future of Syria. And the U.S. will have to re-engage with rebel groups on the ground if they have any hope of doing that.
And just going back to Iran there for a second, official registration has opened for candidates in national elections.
Well, those elections, the Iranian presidential elections, will take place just a few weeks after the elections here in France. And in Iran, there's one surprise candidate who might shake things up a bit. He threw his name into the hat on Sunday. He's a hardliner, a close ally of the country's supreme leader. His name is Ebrahim Raisi. And he's in the running for the presidential elections to challenge the current moderate leader Hassan Rouhani, who's expected to seek re-election. Some say Raisi's bid might be strategic. He's planning to reportedly increase his public image and put his name ultimately in the running to succeed the supreme leader, because indeed the next Iranian president will have a key role in determining the future supreme leader.
Now, let's move on to that devastating twin bombing in Egypt yesterday. What are the headlines saying about that?
Well, there's a lot of reactions, Julia, to that bloody attack, and a lot of questions around security of Coptic Christians in Egypt. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has, of course, declared a state of emergency, but he finds himself on the back foot here after this attack, at least according to the New York Times. He's rushing to assure Christians in the country that they're safe, because Christians have traditionally been some of his most vocal supporters. It also comes as Cairo prepares to welcome the Pope, so the Egyptian authorities must find a way of assuring security for its Coptic Christians ahead of that visit. For the Jerusalem Post, the bombings, I quote, emphasize the grim reality that nowhere in Egypt is safe if you're a Coptic Christian.
And finally, Alec Baldwin may want to retire his Donald Trump persona on Saturday Night Live, but he's found a new fan following in another impersonation. Tell us more.
Well, that's right. He announced a month ago that he's tired of playing Trump, but he may have a new calling in Bill O'Reilly, the Fox News presenter embroiled in a sexual assault scandal. In fact, on SNL this weekend, Baldwin's Trump was interviewed by Baldwin's O'Reilly. And for Vox, it's clear that Baldwin's O'Reilly was far funnier. Baldwin's Trump lacked energy, and at times he sounded downright bored. Vox says, admittedly, many of us thought he'd retired the orange wig by November, but clearly it's not the case.
Well, thank you very much, Deepti. I think we're not the only ones getting Trump fatigue by now. Well, that's all from me. I'll be back in just a few minutes. Stay tuned.